Responding to incidents, accidents, and emergencies. Once an incident has occurred within a workplace, an appropriate response is required by staff in order to contain the incident, support any impacted parties, and prevent any further potential injury from occurring. So, what we're going to look at is different ways we can appropriately respond to the incidents, okay, and address these accidents. And if in the case of emergency, what should we do? So, firstly, we'll take a look at emergency situations. In these situations, it is a priority to contact emergency services such as the police, the fire brigade, or the ambulance. The main number, as we all know here in Australia, is 000, but there are also secondary numbers such as 112, which is better for mobile devices, as well as 106 for the text-based line. Okay, so they're all different ways you can get into contact with those main emergency services. There are also other groups that can be contacted too, such as the New South Wales State Emergency Service, known as the SES. They're the best people to contact when there's been a natural disaster, such as in bushfires or flooding. Okay, and if you're impacted in those situations, they can be contacted on 132 500. Okay, and obviously there are a lot of volunteers who work for the SES, and obviously much more hands there to help out in these situations. All right. From here, okay, they are their main emergency groups. We also can seek assistance from other parties as well. Now, when we seek assistance, firstly, let's look at who's the closest. Who are the relevant personnel in our workplace, such as the manager, HSR, PCBU, okay, or just anyone who's confident in first aid. If there is a situation, you need to think, who am I going to go to? Your manager is usually your direct line in your workplace hierarchy. They might be the first person you contact, okay? But if you do know someone who is confident in an accident situation, you might just go to them first because they're good at first aid for that reason. Okay, but as said before, there are also other agencies that can be contacted in relation to the management, cleaning, or containment of an incident. Okay, one government department that is great to contact in situations is the Poisons Information Centre. Okay, and they're great to get in contact not just for poisons, but also in relation to chemicals and their compounds and burns, and they can give advice about what to do when an accident has happened in the workplace. And so you can get into contact them, they'll tell you what to do, or they may even send people out to help you contain the incident, help clean up, or direct you to a party that can help clean the incident up and who to get in contact with. They may very well say, get in contact with emergency services. That person needs help right away. Okay, particularly if they've intaken something that has been classified as poison. Okay, so great to get in contact with, to seek assistance, and to get advice from. Next, we'll take a look at, okay, workplace procedures. Okay, and there's a variety of procedures that can be in place in a workplace to support emergencies and accidents. Okay, in the case of an emergency, the main one known to everyone is that of an evacuation, where everyone needs to basically get out of the workplace. Now, it's not as simple as that. There needs to be a specific evacuation plan that doesn't just say, everyone needs to get out, but it will go through the type of alarms that are used for different procedures in the case of an evacuation, the roles of different personnel for ensuring their groups or certain people are evacuating the building, and if specific locking down or specific documents need to be brought in the evacuation so that staff members can be tallied to ensure that they are all make it to the safe location. And if they're missing, what do you do there? That would all be in the evacuation plan. All this needs to be trained for. Staff need to be trained for it, management need to be trained for it, and their specific roles. Okay, they need to know where the correct exits are. So for that reason, we need to have evacuation drills. Okay, so that people can practice their procedures that take place in an evacuation, but also so general staff know what is their clearest exit, where do they need to go to, what is the actual sound of the alarm that signifies an evacuation. Other procedures that may take place in an emergency situation is that of just knowing where the isolation switches are. And I've got the big stop circle here because sometimes that's what an isolation switch just looks like, a big circular red button that you hit. It cuts off electricity to a room, turning off all the machinery in that room, thus turning off all the hazards. So minimizing all the risks associated with the hazard because there's no power running to them anymore. Then you can address the actual emergency taking place. Procedures also need to be placed in order to notify security who can support staff in dangerous situations. Okay, that could be if a staff member's, something's gone wrong there. Okay, security can come and help out in that aspect. Okay, so these are all things that need to have procedures in place. As a step-by-step procedure. People need to know them, who to contact, what to press, what steps to follow when something occurs. Next, we'll take a look at first aid. Okay, and first aid may involve things such as conducting CPR when someone has been injured. Okay, and the acronym for CPR as of right now is Doctors ABCD: Danger, Response, Send for Help, Airway, Breathing, CPR, and Defibrillator. Okay, that is the first aid response acronym at this point now. And in many workplaces, staff are trained in this and regularly updated annually so that if a staff member is injured, they do know what to do. Okay, building up confidence in first aid among staff can really assist in addressing injuries within the workplace. And the key area there is those first three of danger, response, and send for help. Because if a situation is too dangerous, you mightn't go in with first aid because you're just going to injure yourself. And S being send for help means telling someone, go contact emergency services so that we can get the professionals on the way. But while the professionals are coming, that A, B, C, D hopefully can take place to keep the person alive during the time it takes emergency services to get there. Okay, first aid isn't just doing that though. If a person has been injured but they are responsive, it could just be dressing their wounds, attending to their burns, strapping up injuries, okay, using the first aid kit. And that would be signified with obviously the cross on the box, the green square with the white cross on it. That's where the first aid equipment is. And that should be known to staff where to get the first aid equipment from. Okay, same with the D in the first aid approach too, the defibrillator. That also needs to be known where's it kept on site in case you do need it, because you've got very limited time to get to an injured party if they need it. Okay, so making sure you know your acronym for first aid, where the first aid equipment is, and making sure you send for help while the first aid procedure is being conducted. The final area we'll look at is understanding emergency signals, and I kind of already alluded to this with evacuation, but evacuation isn't the only situation that requires a signal. There are other situations as well, such as lockdowns. Okay, and knowing the difference between an alarm for a lockdown and evacuation is very important because one of them's telling you to get off site, the other one's telling you to stay on site and isolate yourself within the room because there might be a contamination issue or a dangerous person on site. Okay, it's not just the signals and alarms, but you also need to be aware of exits for different emergency situations too, and that should be guided by green signs pointing to the correct exits. But in the case of an emergency situation, different groups at different areas of a work site should be using different exits, okay, as a part of the emergency plan, so that we're not bottlenecking all the same exits. Okay, so we're trying to streamline everyone out of the site as clear as possible. So as said before, this is all in the emergency plan, which needs to be obviously trialed in emergency drill situations so that staff know what's going on and managers know how to instruct and document where staff are and account for them when they get to their safe place. So I hope this video has given you a good understanding of how to respond to incidents, accidents, and emergency. Really key areas are the workplace policy and procedures. Okay, those evacuation plans, the specific procedures that document how to do things, and understanding of first aid can really help save lives, and knowing that acronym of Doctors ABC can help while emergency services are making their way to a specific injury, and workers understanding the signals that notify them that danger is occurring them on site, and knowing what to do, where to exit, and how to act in emergency situations is key to making it through these situations and hopefully preventing injury or further injury from occurring.